All right. Welcome to the OCR Report's coverage of the Hyrox European Championship, the Elite 15. I'm Dave Claxton, and I'm here with Bracken Crocker and Ryan Kent. So let's just jump right into it, boys. Ryan, what do you see as things that really jump out for you for storylines for this race?
Well, for the guys, I have two storylines, and let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Can David Magida, the lone American in the field, the only one of these guys to qualify by running a course on American soil, can he take down this field of men who all but one have a faster qualifying time than him? And look, we know there's criticism and skepticism regarding course consistency from country to country. And there's a lot of people out there who believe the American courses are just harder and longer than anything we see overseas. But when courses no longer matter and all the big dogs have to line up at the same venue, at the same start line, the cream will rise to the top. And I honestly believe Dave has an opportunity today to show the world that he's better than his seed and qualifying time may suggest. And, along with that, I got to go with Alex Ronkovic, who is Mr. Consistent. He's finished second or third in every Hyrox championship event since the beginning of Hyrox's existence. He shows up in big races, but he's never won one. Will today be the day he finally gets what's been eluding him for so many years? And, the top of the men's race is tight. And I believe some of them are going to rise to the occasion and some are going to fold under the bright lights of the big stage. But I guarantee that's not going to be Alex.
Ryan, I love that you started with David Magida, because it kind of feels like one man versus the world, even though this is a regional championship. He's the lone outsider coming in, and he really does have the weight of all the athletes from his country on his shoulders to either justify their point of view or he's going to justify the European point of view. And being on the same course at the same time is the battle we've all been waiting for. So David Magida has a lot of American hopes riding on his shoulders. And I can't argue with you about Ronkovic. He's just consistent. He's always the best of the rest. At every championship, some one or two gentlemen get out and put on a show, and he always takes care of business, beating everyone else. And in the track and field world, which is your background and mine, we know that if someone can run the same type of performance over and over and over, they're due for a breakout. There's no way you hit your ceiling every single time in a row. That means you're sitting there waiting to pop something crazy. And so is this his coming out party, or some of these other guys, the Tiagos, people that are coming in with crazy fast times, is this their day to justify how fast they are? So Dave, taking a look at all those things, are you on Team US, are you on Team Europe, or are you just on team we're going to see a super fast start and everyone's going to crumble and try to hang on to fight with each other?
Being as I'm sitting up here in Canada, I get to play Switzerland and be neutral. I think Magida will shine. I think he will show up and he will play big. Magida likes the limelight. We know that from when he talked his way into the Invitational way back when. He's okay to have the pressure. He's okay to jump in it and say, I'm taking the mantle and I'm running with it. I'm going to put it out there. But my question is Thiago Lusa possibly the most underestimated number one seed we've seen in any of these races?
Well, he did finish third place at the 2021 Hyrox World Championships where he scooted by Hunter McIntyre at the wall ball station. This guy did run 57.54 this season on the Frankfurt course, which was a venue that produced a lot of fast times. And he happened to run 3 minutes slower the week prior. So, I think we're going to find out a lot about Thiago today on whether or not he's legit or not.
That's everyone in this race, it feels like, other than Ronkovic and other than Tobias. Toby and Alex, you know what you're getting with those two. But everyone outside of that, there's been... discrepancy on how stations were set up. Everyone has a little bit of a question mark to their best performance. And because of that, everyone has a very large chip on their shoulder. And today is the day where everyone gets to justify their performance or prove kind of the doubters right, that there was some reason to be skeptical.
I think you're bang on. This is you hit it with the chip on their shoulder. Is there anybody in this race without something to prove? I even think of somebody like Michael Sandbach. Like, what Michael Sandbach do we see today? Do we see that amazing, determined, fit athlete, or do we see the one that maybe has sometimes had trouble with pressure? He's got something to prove, and he's another guy that could jump up and win this race.
Yeah, he finished 6th place at the World Championships in Las Vegas, and he has I think a time this year of 58-51, which he ran in Berlin. But he has been known to be a little bit of a head case in some of these races. He's dropped out of wall balls, which is the final station of a Hyrox event. So what version of Michael Sandbach are we going to get today? He's a physical specimen, has a ton of potential in this event, and I wouldn't be surprised one bit if he snuck on this podium.
No, not at all. You talk about chips on shoulders. I'm going to transition over the women here. Ryan, I know you're about to talk about the clash of the Titans up front, but is there a bigger chip than Linda? We have Linda Meyer here, sitting here, who is the next big thing. This was going to be her breakout year. She missed out on winning world championships last year with Lauren not in it and a few other women not showing up. That was her big moment. She didn't win, and suddenly she's not even the favorite this year. She went from the next big thing to relegated to an afterthought. And I can't imagine there's someone with a bigger chip on their shoulder than her.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, she finished 2nd place behind Chris Rogloski in Las Vegas. Chris Rogloski is not in this race. She did not qualify for this event. You would think she's next in line in the pecking order. But, you got these two heavyweight juggernauts who came onto the scene this year and, are in that top spot that she desperately wants. But she has a time of 62 minutes on a course that, in my opinion, wasn't super fast. I think she's a real threat to dethrone one of these two ladies today.
Linda has been that antithesis of steady progression. She has gotten better and better and better and better. She's truly honed her craft, and I think that's one reason she is not to be underestimated, because she is in line to improve more. So I really think that she could come in there. But when you talk chips on your shoulder, you can't leave out Tara Jackson. Tara Jackson seems to be constantly underestimated and not brought to the forefront, but yet she's always there contending. Is today a day that she could get onto that European podium? Could she take a spot? Could she? You talk about the two Titans up front. Is Tara someone that is maybe a legit threat for that 3rd spot?
Yeah, Tara is Miss Hybrid Fitness. She comes in as one of the best overall hybrid athletes on the planet. She's great at the stations. She has a background in track and field and cross country. There's really nothing she can't do. And I feel like she's one of those girls who always feels she's a little underestimated. And I think she's going to come in today feeling like she has something to prove.
And looking at the woman on screen right now, Ida Matilde Steensgaard, we've been told. Steensgaard. She is a first-timer. And Ryan, you and I both know how much time we dropped from our first race to our second and our third. I think you're over 5 minutes of time you've dropped, and because I was so terrible at my first one, I'm at 10 minutes. She came out and put up a pretty elite time in her first attempt, and I think she has to be the least experienced woman in this field. And so for her to have, she's a OCR world champion. She's a multi-time European and national champion. And so she's bringing a level of success into the sport that the Europeans haven't seen from this particular venue. And so she has the ability, I believe, to play kind of a Chris Rogloski role from Vegas last year, which is not really be on everyone's radar because she's minutes slower, but have the ability to make a huge jump forward in performance and suddenly be right there in the mix at some point.
Yeah, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? Like she clearly she doesn't have the experience, but she has the fitness to compete with these ladies. She comes in with a qualifying time of, I think, 105.12 in Hamburg, which she finished just behind Michaela and Miriam von Rohr. So, Yeah, coming back for her second attempt in a Hyrox, I expect her to improve upon that 105 time, which should put her in podium position.
Every time we talk, every sentence you guys say, you throw out another woman that I just sit there and go, oh my God, that is a legit contender. And we haven't even mentioned two women who would be considered the early queens of High Rocks in Viola Oberlander and Lauren Weeks. We haven't even brought them up. And they're two women who could come out and very well win this thing if they have a great day. So the depth of this women's field is unbelievable.
Lauren Weeks.
Yeah, I think
How do we possibly ever lose her in the shuffle? And if you had to vote for the best female Hyrox athlete of all time, she'd probably receive the majority of the first place votes. And here she is being, 15 minutes into our coverage, and we're mentioning her for the first time. I mean, cliff notes for the audience tuning in for the first time. World champion, gave birth to her first child, and is now coming back. And the question with Lauren is not ever about talent. It's not ever about work ethic or volume of training. It's not ever about aggression in racing. She's going to go after it whether she's fit or not. The question is, has she even had enough time to make up for her lost fitness and get her body back to the place it was prior to childbirth in order to take on a massive championship like this? And since she is so aggressive, we're not going to know. She's not going to put a rev limiter on. She's going to go out and attack as if she's in world record shape. And we won't know the difference until it either happens or doesn't happen. And that makes this really exciting to watch.
Yeah, she comes in as the 8 seed, which is crazy to think about. You know, she's the most decorated female athlete in hybrid racing in this field. And I feel like I think she has a lot to prove. She's 6 months removed from having that baby. I think her fitness is back, and I think she's going to perform really, really well today.
If she's still up near the front, because we know she's going to go out fast, she always does. If she's still up near the front, going into the burpee broad jumps, and after those first few burpee broad jumps looks on form, everybody needs to watch out, because that's where she starts to shine. That's where she really becomes dangerous, and she's traditionally good at this. So I look forward to see if we see her up there. Then, wow, we got a heck of a race on our hands.
Yeah, we have two different setups for the men and the women. The men has a field where, Ryan, you said this offline in our group message, there's a chance that all 15 men are on wall balls at the same time. There's only a 2-minute and 45-second spread from the first seed to the last seed. And that's with some fast courses and slow courses in there. You get them all on the same course, there's a real chance we could have all 15 men on the last station together. And then it's just going to turn into a bloodbath there. Where on the women's side, we have one individual who has shown she can go unbroken on 100 wall balls to finish it off. So where a lot of the guys just want to get to the wall balls intact, in contention, and say, hey, maybe I can pull something off, the women need to get to wall balls clear and free of Meg Jacoby, because I don't know if any other woman here would be willing to bet her race life here on being able to go unbroken faster than Meg. It's not just going unbroken anymore. You have to go unbroken and do it faster than her. And we've not seen a weapon like that in this sport yet.
If this women's race, this matchup between Meg and Michaela, if this was a pay-per-view race, I'd have to buy it. This is two heavyweight juggernauts. I mean, this is Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. This is going to be so much fun.
We are apparently down less than 30 seconds. So just right off the back, Bracken, who's going to lead this men's heat out, and how fast will it be?
Gentlemen, I can't call it. I think we just see a herd. We see a massive testosterone get off this line. One thing to note is that the runs at this venue are a little bit long. They're running 3, and I guess we have our answer right there.
We're off.
Vinish is off. We have 3 1/4 laps every time they leave a station to go run, and that's a little longer than their 1,000-meter goal distance, and so they are making up that distance. On the first run, it will only be a lap and a half, which is very rare. Oftentimes the first lap is long to make up for the other laps. You rarely feel this first run, and you get to the ski erg and you're feeling too good, and you get off the ski erg feeling too good, and then the race punches you in the face on the sleds. You're going to feel that first run even less today because you're only running half the distance. We've not seen this type of setup before.
And for those of you not familiar with Hyrox, or maybe you're new to the sport, they're going to run Normally Hyrox is 8K, so 1,000 meter runs divided up by workout stations. The first station we're going to hit is 1,000 meters on the skier. So after they finish this first run, we'll be going to the skier for 1,000 meter pull.
And just for
Generally,
the audience at home, these guys are going to be skiing about low 140s for per 500 for this ski erg. I mean, these guys are good at this machine. They're going to come through and knock this out in probably 320, 325 or so.
This strategy right here, we already see David Magida moving to the back of the field and running his own race. Now, he's known for that, but the courses he's known for running are known for having big punishing sleds. And the consensus seems to be that European sleds aren't as punishing. So right away, we're starting to see, is this a strategy that is acceptable? If they get to the sleds and they're not as damaging as you're used to, are you able to set yourself up with a deficit without some big punishing sled waiting to destroy people's legs?
And it looks like we had Tiago actually get to the first skier. So Tiago, the number 1 seed with a 57.54, leading the way into the skier.
Yeah, I got to think Magida is probably the smartest racer in this field, which is why he's in the back. He's good at managing his effort. But like you said, Bracken, like these aren't the sleds in North America. Let's hope he's not getting himself in trouble too early.
Well, and here's the problem with being a smart racer, is that when you get to a championship, there are other smart racers. And so you have someone like Arankovic, who is a very smart racer, to always be the person that never gets blown up in a race. And then you have someone like Toby, who's obviously a smart racer as well. So if you have two other people who are trying to run the same style as you, and you maybe don't match them on the first station or two, your smart race turns into a desperate race very quickly.
And we just saw there again, Tobias hung back as well, which he is known for, to start out not quite as fast as some. So again, smart racer, former champion, playing that same role. I think that's the way to go in this men's field, is to be a little more conservative off the start.
Vinish is such an aggressive skier. He really gets into it.
He's also the youngest athlete in the field. I think he's only 23, 24 years old.
That alone is scary. We have 3 athletes over the age of 40. We have probably 8 to 10 athletes in their mid-30s. To have a 24-year-old, we all remember what we were like at 24. We had no clue what we could do. And that's terrifying to someone to realize, yeah, they might just knock a minute off their 5K this year because they're 24 years old.
Him and Alex were breathing down my neck at the World Championships in Las Vegas. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if Tim found his way on the podium today.
And I think that just goes back to this, what we said at the beginning, the competition level in this. Any one of these guys could sneak on there. Any one of these guys could do it. It's such a field that, yeah, you have your favorites, but there's an unlimited amount of dark horses that just wouldn't surprise you.
Yeah, you even have some newcomers in Florian Gass from Germany and Jonathan Wynn from Australia, 2 guys who have gone under 59 minutes this year, and are somewhat of an unknown in the Hyrox space. This is their first year competing, but sub 59 is legit. You know, could they spoil the party for some of these other well-known names today?
Yeah, and what we haven't seen in the U.S. are people that are significantly faster than us at races. Generally, people get off and run about the same rate, maybe a little quicker, a little less. But what I noticed in researching some of these gentlemen is they're all running road and cross-country races all fall, all winter. They do a lot more run racing than a lot of the top Hyrox competitors in North America do. And I don't know if that's cultural or if that's them all announcing, hey, we understand that our big gains are going to come being able to run better, faster, more efficiently. If this is something that's new to their lifestyle and their training, putting in a winter and a fall of cross country is massive for Hyrox.
And we just had
Alex is out first, followed by Tim.
Michael Sandbach.
Tiago first in, maybe 7th or 8th out.
And I expected this from Alex. He was aggressive in Las Vegas. I'm one of the fastest skier in the field, and he came off right with me at the World Championship. So, he's duplicating what he did in Vegas.
Tobias was third to last off of that ski erg. Megita was probably 10 seconds ahead of him off that. And Ryan, one thing you worried about early on was, can Tobias still use that start slow, move up through the field approach now that everyone's a sub 59 guy? And we might be seeing the start of that answer.
And Alex was 334 on that ski. Weineck 339.
That's flying.
I mean,
and these are with transitions.
Yes. That's your transition coming in and out, guys.
Yep.
So how would that fare in how would you rank that in a wave of ski? Like, is that a really high level for Alex, or would that be really normal for him?
I mean, you got to give, I would say, minimum 10 seconds of transition time. So you're looking at low 320s for his split on the 1K ski, which is 141, 142, 500 pace. That is flying. That's a big effort to be putting forth so early in the race.
So I'm going to read off some splits here. First station, here's how it shook off. Alexander Rankovic, 334. Tim Vinish, 339. Florian Gass, 340. Jonathan Wynn, 341. Michael Sandbach, 341. Dieter Schwarzkopf, 344. Joffrey Voisin, 347. Thiago Lusa, 348. David Megita, 348. Patrick Grew, 349. Peter Schiller, 352. Tobias, 354. And Elti Hupkes, 356. There are only three people who weren't 349 or faster. That's probably the best top to bottom skier I've seen at a race yet.
Is that pace too quick for any of them? Does anyone jump out to you that might be a pace that they're not comfortable with? Maybe they're overexerting themselves, right?
Well, think about it. David Megita did 348. Alex Rankovic 334. That's 14 seconds over the course of a kilometer. If you double that, you're almost looking at a mile. That'd be almost 30 seconds differential over the course of a mile. That is a huge variation in effort. Megita's probably coming off that skier. He's got his heart rate under control. Some of these guys going sub 340, I guarantee their heart rate's probably a little bit higher than they want.
This was something we talked about pre-race, pre-microphones being hot, which is when people start to put up really fast times in the running world or in the endurance world, there's two things that can happen. You can either look at it and say, look, I got a good day that day. I had a fast course. I still need to run my race. Or you start to believe your time, and this is how I work now. And it looks like a lot of these guys are saying, I am a 57, 58 guy with a potential for 55, and I'm going to act the part. And that works really well right into the point where you realize I went out too fast, especially in a high adrenaline race like this. So there are probably 1, 2, maybe 3 gentlemen who can keep that pace and they're within themselves. But there's another 6 or 7 who are along for the ride who are going to have a come to Jesus moment in about 5 or 6 minutes because of this.
Does Rankovic have to hammer these stations to stay up front? Now, Ryan, you say he's a guy who could potentially win. I think of Rankovic as such a power athlete. Does he need to excel at the stations in order to compensate for some of these guys who are supposed to be before?
Yeah, but he's a good runner too. Like, he's very underrated as a runner. But I guarantee he's one of the best men in this field on this sled push coming in. He's not going to lose any time by any means. We saw him right there. He's faded to third a little bit. Maybe he's settling in. Maybe he's paying for a little bit of a hot start. We're going to find out a lot here on the sled push on who kind of pushed early on that skier. Maybe a little too soon.
5 men took their first step together, and then 3 more took it about 4 seconds later. So Megita and 2 others had a strong run to move up and close the gap. But we have 8 people all within 5 seconds of each other right now. We haven't seen that since, I don't know, maybe that first Miami race back in 2019. We haven't seen this level, but look at the long rest here now. Now people are starting to realize, okay, it's happening.
And there's 2 strategies here. Do you go for, the slow approach and just keep the sled moving, or do you go for power strokes and really kind of, quick bursts? I think the quick burst strategy is honestly the way to go.
You do. Why is that?
So you
I think it just gives a little bit of reprieve to your legs rather than continuing to grind for the whole length of the carpet.
Now, we're obviously only about halfway through the sled, and I can already tell this is crushingly fast times.
Very fast, but also look at the spread. We had 5 people take their first step together, and there are probably only 2 people still side by side. This sled is starting to really spread people out.
Sandbach and Ronkovic are really pushing the pace on the sled.
Magita's right there.
Magita's made up some time. And David Magida would not, in North America, be considered a sled powerhouse. In fact, we saw him drop out of the North American Championships last year on the sled. He couldn't get it moving very well. We've seen him lose time there and have to run himself back into races. And he's making up time here on the sled. So I guess this is the first data point for where does the U.S., Canada, Mexico stand against Europe on the sleds.
And we just saw Michael Sandbach and then Ronkovic come up right behind him.
Now Magita's off. Vinish off. Let's check some sled times here.
They got through that so fast.
I'm saying sub 2 minutes.
2:06 for Sandbach, Ronkovic 2:07.
Now, comparatively, Ryan, what would have the sled times been, say, last year at the North American Championship?
I think I barely snuck under the 3 minute. Hunter and I both were just under 3.
All right, we have the top 7 through 2:06, 2:07 for Sandbach and Ronkovic, and then Dieter Schwarzkopf came off ahead of Magida in 2:13, Magida 2:14, Vinish 2:19, Wynn 2:24, Gas 2:34. And so 2 things jump out. A, that's probably Magida's fastest sled push by a minute. And B, we are already starting to see a 15-second spread on sleds, which did not happen on that first run, second run, or the skier amongst those top 7. So the split is already starting. That fast start is already coming home.
I think Toby's in trouble here.
He's going to need
Already?
a big pull.
I think he's in trouble. He came off that sled way behind the other guys, and he didn't look great running out of it. You see him right there. He does not look like he's having a great time.
2:34 for Toby. That is already a 20-second slower sled than Magida and 21 than Dieter, and nearly 30 seconds to Ronkovic.
And it's one of those things when you're used to winning and you find yourself a little far off the back than you'd like to be, all of a sudden it gets in your head and you lose some of that confidence that you typically, have in these races. And, we'll see what Toby can do here, but he to me, he looks like he might be in trouble.
Well, we often have 2.5 laps or 3 laps for the run. We're at 3 1/4 here today. That just means more total turns to have to do on a run, which means more opportunity for people to get out of your sight. On a 2-lap run, that is a bigger lap, longer lines of sight. You can sight in on people. 3.5 laps, you're going to get out of sight, broken connection visually very quickly, and the chance of being lapped by someone increases significantly. It is not a good, you don't want multiple laps when you are chasing people down. You want long straightaways to run them down.
And it looks there like,
so it looks like we
has
have
put some space between him and Sandbach, and Magida actually making ground on Sandbach.
It looks like the top 4 we have Alex, Tim, Sandbach, and Magida look to be the top 4 right now.
Now, Thiago Lusa fans have nothing to worry about right now. In that World Championship, I believe was that in Berlin, where he made 3rd place on the podium, past Hunter McIntyre, the reigning world champ and arguably greatest of all time on the wall balls. He did not have a great sled push. He was out of the picture, and then suddenly he was back in the picture. He has the ability to manufacture time gaps later in the race. He has the ability to move up through without people really noticing what he's doing. And so just because he's the number 1 seed and is suddenly not on screen, it does not mean his race is over, because he's shown the ability to work his way back into it.
Now that said, he did have a sled in the 250s compared to like a 208, and
Yeah, it's not
that's hard.
encouraging.
That's gotta be hard to make up. That's encouraging. He definitely has. You know what? There's nowhere to go but up from there. But yeah, like I said, Tiago's a late charger. So.
He has but 48 seconds to lose on the sled to first place. Kind of seals your deal for first place. Doesn't mean he can't make the podium, but to lose 48 seconds, even if you take back 5 seconds on every run, you're not back. It's a big task ahead of him, but third place isn't gone yet.
And this isn't a field where you know, I just think this field is too tight to make up the gap. And much like Ryan Kent says, Toby is in trouble. I think Tiago is the same. And now we have Alex Rankovic first to the pole.
And I think he's just going to extend his lead here. He's one of the best sled pull athletes in the field. These four have clearly separated from the field already, and I think they're just going to extend their lead here on this station.
It's interesting. Lanes 2 and 3 here are not managing rope at all. They're just pulling and plopping, and Rankovic is managing rope off to the side, and Magida is managing rope. Magida actually just stopped pulling to manage rope. So we know that with ropes, you got to pay now or pay later. You either take care of it early or you have to stop later on and it messes with you. I'm going to see if that's it. That's a talking point later on this poll.
And I think Vinek made some good ground up on Michael Sandbach there with that first length.
Again, these sleds are flying on this carpet.
And interestingly, David lost a little ground here.
But has David routinely been really good on the sleds? Like you said earlier, I don't think the sleds have been very kind to David in the past.
No, especially the pole. He doesn't like the pole that much.
I think he's the best runner of the four here. So, you know, if he does fall behind a little bit, he has the potential to run them back down before the next station.
Rankovic is flying. As is Sandbach.
Both of these guys are just physical specimens, man.
Yeah.
Big, tall, strong.
Frame seems to matter in this sport. You can just long levers, put some force out into things, and use less movement to be able to do it when you're long and broad.
Now, if I was to look at these top four men with Rankovic, Sandbach, Magida, and Tim Vinek, he's much more of a slight frame. He's like one of these things is not like the other in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So being as he's hanging with these guys during the power stations, does that really bode well for him for the rest of the course?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see Alex running in between. He finished that last pull and ran to the opposite side. That leads me to believe that he's still well within himself. If you're in over your head, you're walking back to the other side. He was running.
This is a really important run right here. Magida just gave up a decent amount of time. And what happens on this run right here, because Magida's still on the sled here, working I mean, they all are, but he's probably, half a length behind now? He's going to have some ground to make up. And you don't have to make it all up on this round, obviously. But two guys get off together, which is bad news for people chasing because they have each other right there. And Magida's going to come off probably 20 seconds down. And so just having some gain back on the run, chipping his way back into it, is going to be very, very important. Because we've seen him have really good burpee broad jumps and really bad burpee broad jumps. So what kind of momentum he brings into this really is going to dictate the back half of his race.
Sandbach looks really strong right now, too.
Rankovic is an interesting runner where he's kind of a power runner. He's not quick off the ground. He's taking powerful, slow strides. And that's the type of thing that works great when it works great. But when you fatigue, the first thing to go then is some of that power out of those strides. And powerful, slow strides become slow strides. And so right now he looks great. But back half of the course, is this something where Magida, who has a much better cadence when he runs, is he going to be able to reel people back down?
And we're looking at a 306 on that sled for Sandbach.
We've got Toby with a 304. Sandbach
Maybe it's not too late.
306. Jeffrey Voisin 311. Tim Weinish 311. Alex Ronkovic 311. David Magida 334. So Magida lost some time there.
Yeah, he just dropped 30 seconds to the leader, which I mean, we just said it. You can't lose 48 on the push. 30 on the pull it's a tall order to ask, because up front these are three guys who have shown that they don't have major cracks in their game. David's going to have to be on point from here on out now.
And just when I wanted to count out Toby, he comes in with the fastest sled pull split of the group.
Yeah, and that's huge, making up time. You can see he's now in 5th or 6th place. That's huge in positioning, and yet he only took 2 seconds back from the leader. And that's where this game is dangerous, because you might be charging up through the field and not really doing anything other than spinning your wheels on the guys up front.
And the question is, too, how much did he put in to make that happen? Did he decide this is the time I'm going to make a move because I need to get back into contention? Or is this just still part of his straight race plan for me?
I don't think the sled pull is a station where you can even make a move. You either got it or you don't.
That's a good point. You can't pull harder than your forearms are going to let you do it. Michael Sandbach just made a pass there on Ronkovic, and he had probably a 10-meter deficit lap before. So this up front is getting a bit spicy. You don't make moves off the sled push and pull. I kind of like doing it on there. That run afterwards isn't a gimme. If you're making a move past someone, it's because your legs have the ability to do it, not because you've just decided to get tough.
And if there's one guy in the field where we don't know what his ceiling is, it's Sandbach. You know, he's shown flashes of being this athlete who can be at the top of the sport. And it's fun to see him today kind of show what he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
He was sixth place in Las Vegas. So I mean, he's a high performer.
His run looked a lot more effortless than Ronkovic. He looked like he was putting a lot less into his stride. He was just cruising along, where I think Alex looked a little more labored already.
Well, and we're going to get here at some point since I'm on the booth here, but this is the part of the race, I think, where shoe choice starts mattering. You had about half the field wearing super shoes, carbon fiber plates, extremely light bouncy foam, very little grip. And the reason you don't want to wear those for Hyrox are station number 2 and 3, the sled push and sled pull. You need traction. But once you're through it, you now have 5,000 meter intervals to use those shoes, and you don't need grip from here on out. You don't need stability from here on out. So if these guys like Sandbach, who's in the Endorphin Pros here, got through the sled still in contact, now he gets to start to reap the benefits of footwear here. And fatigued, compromised running is when these babies help the most. So maybe it's a small point, maybe it's a bigger point, but some of the people that made gambles on shoes, they're done with that gamble now. Now they get to use them.
Yeah,
and this station is more cardiovascular than anything. I think we're going to find out kind of how everyone's feeling here on the burpee broad jumps.
So this station has had controversy lately with some judging practices, with some interpretations of the rules. What I'm seeing right now, especially out of these men's first few burpees, was a little hesitation as they were going back down in their hand placement to make sure that they didn't get no reps and didn't get sent back.
Yeah, Weinish was doing some funky hand sliding forward and stepping past his hands right there. We'll see if on the way back they've corrected that.
It is a very difficult station to judge, and that's why it has been a source of controversy.
David Magida is now behind an entire down and half of the back.
And Tobias is hot on his heels.
Yeah. And just like that, he's back in it. He can't write Toby off.
You know, one thing you're starting to see too is almost the entire field is going with that step up technique. You know, I've even converted myself over to this style of burpee broad jumps. just kind of saves energy, and I think you're able to get more out of your jumps. And you're seeing these guys, man, they're getting 2 to 3 yards per jump, which is obviously going to limit the amount of burpees you have to do.
Now, David's getting up onto his knees and then getting up to his feet. I feel like he's giving away a quarter to a half second on every single rep. And they just had a word with Vinish about his. You saw him take another half step forward on that jump. His form's getting a little sloppy. As you see David there, knee, foot on his way up. That's not a confident, I'm feeling good looking form.
Is that a potential way to save energy for later on?
I suppose, but he's got to take time on every station.
And as we see, we got Michael Sandbach heading out first, and definitely they're putting a little gap between him and Alex.
He's going for it.
Oh, that's some slow form right here. That's not good to see. Toby's gobbling him up right now. But David gets so much distance on his jump that he's mitigating some of that danger.
I think we got a 2-man race now.
Yeah, Dave might be racing for third now. But that's the wrong guy you want on your shoulder, racing for the final podium spot.
We've got Sandbach put in a 2:23, then Alex with a 2:27, and Tim with a 2:36.
This is a bad position for Rankovic right now, because when you're dealing with someone like Sandbach, who has a high ceiling but has shown the ability to blow up, or even on some occasions decide to drop out of a race, the way to control that is to put pressure on them. Get them right back to whatever mind space they were in when they decided, no mas, I'm going to tap out today. You need to get them to that place. And right now, Sandbach has a head of steam rather than maybe some cracks on the facade. This is not a great spot to be in.
And you see our women are entering the starting corral now, so we're going to have the women come off soon. And again, you got to expect to see the fastest start in women's race history with Michaela and with Lauren and with Meg all up there. They're all going to want to go. They'd like to be up front.
Oh, yeah. So Megiddo went 2:47, Tobias went 2:42, and the top guys were 2:23, 2:27. So they lost another 19 and 20 seconds. But Tobias made up 5 seconds on Megiddo. So I think you're right, Ryan. We have a 2-man race, and then we have a 2-man battle currently for the final podium spot.
And other than the runs, we only have the wall balls as a station where significant time can be made. A lot of time won't be made up on the row or the farmer's carry or even the lunges. So, we are where we are here.
Yeah, we really are.
So between Tim, Tobias, and Megiddo, who on the wall balls has the potential to push it and possibly go unbroken to take that spot? Essentially, who will want it more?
I think they're all around the 4 minute, 3:45, 4 minutes. There's not a big time gap between the guys, which is why we might, think that it is a 2-man race right now. I don't know if Megiddo or Toby are that much better on the wall balls to make up some of this time.
Women are just about to take off. Look at that front line of 4 women. That is a fast front line.
What are we going to see here? Are we going to see Lauren Weeks? Just blast it
It
out?
looked like Michaela had that inside.
Michaela going full tights and sleeves today.
She did the same thing in her last run.
Yeah.
So it looks like
Now,
Sandbach
Dave,
is a full lap ahead on Megiddo.
That's so hard to come back from. Dave, before I was talking about how Meg has that big ace in the hole of being able to go unbroken on wall balls. You were about to say something there about there's one other athlete in the field who, due to her background, might have the ability to do the same.
Yeah, Miriam Braunrohr. Miriam is a extensive CrossFit background. And put it this way, I think if Miriam is within 30 seconds of you at the start of the lunges, you are in big trouble. Because to get through the lunges, and to go unbroken on the wall balls is her thing. That's her jam. So if she's less than 20, 30 seconds behind you, you better watch out. That girl can finish with probably as well as anybody. She might be the best finisher in the women's game.
And it's such a depressing thought to have in the back of your mind, knowing I just did everything right on 15 of 16 stations. And it might all just go away because I have to stop 4 or 5 times and she's not going to.
Yeah. And not only does she not stop, but her cadence on the wall balls is extremely fast. She catches the ball when she's already deep down into her squat. And if you watch when she's side by side with some of the other women, you can see, even if they're both going, she's making up ground constantly.
Didn't she just set like a world record for like 1,000 wall balls?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers, but yeah, there was something like that. So she should
Tim
be in
is
good
still
wall
in the
ball
fight
form.
here. You know, it was about 12 seconds from Rakovic to Sandbach, and then another 12 to 15 seconds to Tim. So these three are within 30 seconds of each other.
Yeah, and they've put a significant gap on David and Toby.
Well, it looks like Lauren first to the skier, followed by Michaela.
Well, all's right in the world.
And in third there, we have was using the butterfly technique for a while. I assume that was Ida, and then Meg beside her.
It's interesting. If that is Ida, she's alternating between butterfly and standard. I like
Ryan,
the idea of alternating reps and form on some of these stations in Hyrox. Again, a purist wouldn't agree with that on any one given station. That's not the best. But when you have to look at it like a war of attrition throughout 16 stations, you give your little arms and arm motions and muscle groups any break you can give them.
And out of these 4 guys here, Tim is probably the best rower of the 4. There's a chance he claws back a few seconds on this station. Gets back in the mix with Alex and Sandbach.
Now,
Alex
tell me,
cadence is starting to slow slightly. He came in rowing a faster cadence than Sandbach, and now he's a tick slower. Go ahead, Dave.
so as a rule, how would Tim's running and his running pace compare to, say, Alex's? Because if you say he's better on the roll and he can make time on the run, this might not be that 2-horse race. Tim might be able to sneak his way in there and pass Rakovic.
They're all, in my opinion, they're like the same athletes. They have the same strengths and weaknesses. For the most part, you know. But yeah. Tim and Alex are very familiar with each other. They ran essentially side by side in Las Vegas at the World Championships from start to finish, and you know they're finding themselves in a similar situation here at the Euros.
Alex
this is an interesting. And this is an interesting setup to me because, like you said, the people at the front are kind of the same skill set, and not one of them are wall ball powerhouses. They're all very competent and capable on it, but there's not a Meg or a Miriam sitting up there. But what we do have is one athlete who stopped on the wall balls, and he's the one currently leading. And so are we seeing the athlete here who had some past hiccups on course and decided to have a monster off season and never let it happen again? Or are we seeing an athlete who's having a monster race but still has that little demon on his shoulder saying, we've been here before and we stopped? We're about to see what type of headspace he's in and what has he done in his off season to prepare himself for probably the biggest hurdle he's going to face.
Well, let me tell you this, he is recently a new father. And that, you know, from Bracken, you know what it's like. I know what it's like. It kind of gives you that extra boost, and you know maybe he's out there racing for his kid today.
It certainly changes motivation on course and heading to a race. I don't know if anything changes when you're 1,000 meters from the end. I don't know if anything changes you at your core, but your headspace at the start line changes dramatically, and that then can change what you're doing 1,000 meters from the finish line.
You're just looking, and historically, Tim's best station is the lunges. So that might be his win. You might see it at that spot. You might see Tim make the move on Alex there if he keeps going.
And Ryan, you talked about you can't do anything on the sled pull you're not capable of. That's the lunges. If you can go unbroken, you're going unbroken. If you can't, there is no faking it. You're so full up at that point, you just can't do what you can't do on that lunge.
So the women we had come out there. We had Lauren, then Michaela, then actually Alundra Greenlee snuck up there, and then Meg Jacoby.
So for the row, we had Michael Sandbach and Alex Ronkovic both come with the 346. Tim Whitish with the 349.
And that 346, 349 is, to me, every bit as impressive as that 334 ski, because there's more of a setup and a teardown stage of the rower. It's not just run up to the ski handles, grab it, and start cranking. You have to sit down, get your feet in, strap it on. Some people need to adjust the damper setting. You have an extra 3 to 4 seconds of transition right there as well. So you're still looking at people rowing really, really high average per 500 this late into a race where they got out fast.
Toby 359. He lost some time to Megiddo 406.
Megiddo 406. Oh, it's not encouraging.
You say it's not encouraging, but let's be honest here. Megiddo came into this as a 14th seed. If he comes out in the top 5, is not that a massive victory?
Well, yeah, that's a win and it's justification, but he didn't come here for 5th place.
No.
And regardless of what place you're in, you could be in 1st place. If you row 10 seconds slower than you thought maybe worst case scenario was, that's deflating. Because it's one of those stations like the skier, you can't really stare at your counter the entire time. You can check in and you can see how you're doing. The sleds, everything like that, you don't have an in-your-face representation of how you're doing. You only feel how you're doing. On the rower, you stare at that screen every single stroke and it mocks you as you start to fade back a little bit. So he's well aware that he's not rowing how he wants to row. And positioning doesn't even matter at that point. He understands, I'm bleeding out.
And the top 10 women, all within 10 seconds on the ski erg.
Good.
Alondra Greenlee and Miriam Von Rohr both had the fastest split with a 409.
I'm looking in there, and what I'm like seeing that we talked about earlier is 2 of the veterans, 2 of the queens of Hyrox, Lauren Weeks and Viola Oberlander, right up front. And Lauren, that's expected. Lauren always likes to run up front. Viola, for her to be there now, it could play one of 2 ways. That, again, could be something where maybe she's putting out too hard, too fast, or she is just showing that she is in good form and ready to roll. Because if she's up there now, she really will contend later.
Lauren's 50 meters clear of the field here. Like we said earlier, it doesn't matter what she's bringing to the table. She's acting the part no matter what.
What she did last year was probably the most amazing feat in athletics I've ever seen anyone do. Last year at Worlds, when she was 7 months pregnant and still ended up 9th in the world, I believe.
Yeah.
It was the most incredible feat. You can't help but cheer for Lauren and have the utmost respect for her.
And she lives and dies by her aggressive racing style.
I'm going to pause you there, Kent. Sandbach came in and was gesturing around, couldn't find any chalk before starting this farmer's carry, and he looked upset about it. Whereas Ronkovic got right on and got to work. This might be one of those moments right here where something cracks your armor and you are not prepared. If he's never done this in training in this situation, this is a bad spot to be in.
And we don't see Tim there yet.
No.
And I would have expected Tim to be there by now. Like, maybe he's off screen. There he is, just coming in. There's the chalk. He found it.
And the chalk is right there, which means Sandbach had full-on race blinders on.
You're right, though. That can totally get in your head. Something small of that, even when I'm training, I have a bucket of chalk right next to me, and I always make sure to, chalk up before I grab those kettlebells. your ability to hold on to those things isn't nearly as high without that chalk. Your hands are probably sweaty. You're having to grip it harder. It's slipping out of your hands. It makes the farmer's carry significantly more difficult.
And he was pulling away from Ronkovic, and then he took his first break down at the other side. And so I was about to say, it doesn't matter. He's got a full length on him. And then he paused for a second there. Now he's back under one length.
Women, just like men coming into the sled push all together. With it looks
got
like
there
Alundra
first.
Greenlee taking a little lead.
It looks like Toby's overtaken Magida.
Yeah, that was not a great run station for Vinesh.
Now, Ronkovic
This race is still pretty tight.
Ronkovic is generally very good at the wall balls. So if he's in striking distance of Sandbach, he could overtake him on the wall balls.
There's no
Tim's
worse
off.
feeling than knowing you have to absolutely crush the wall balls. Like, for me, it's like I want to come in with a little bit of cushion, knowing I can take a few breaks, but man, going in feeling like, man, I might have to do these unbroken or 2 sets of 50, that can weigh on you for sure.
Yeah, wall balls are one of those, you're not tipping and then you're tipped. And if you get to come in and break before you need to break, you're guaranteed to finish strong. And if you come in and you have to send it and take a chance and go for it, you know that you're setting yourself up for a blow up. And that's a depressing feeling, but there is no other choice. The only way to nail that is to go for it.
And our top 3 men were within 1 second of each other on that farmer's carry.
Oh, Magida's had his 3rd break, I think. Lauren's off. Lauren's off with a lead.
Toby is still less than a minute off the leaders.
Really?
He's in there.
And look at,
Lauren's got like 30 seconds.
and then Megan and Alundra are just side by side. They're going to come off.
Alundra is not a name we said once in the lead up here, and I love that she's inserted herself right into the picture.
And that was Miriam Von Rohr behind them, another one who's deadly on the sleds.
Yeah.
Too
And look
flat.
at too flat on
For
that, and
Lauren
look
Weeks.
at Michaela here. So she's going to come off in 7th or 8th. She's got her arms straight out in front of her, and just now she switched up tactics again, but this was a taxing push for her.
When we go back, she qualified with that great time at a Frankfurt course, which was a well-known fast course. So now it's a case, and I think when she did that, a lot of the other women decided we're gunning for her. She put the target on her back, and these other women are taking up the mantle, and they're going for it.
Listen to these splits, boys. Miriam Von Rohr on that sled push, 153. Lauren Weeks, 2 flat. Alondra Greenlee, 215. Meg Jacoby, 218. Tara Jackson, 232. There's big gaps forming.
Already.
Early.
And here's our farmers carry splits. Toby, number 1, 155. Ronkovic, 156. Sandbach, 157. Vinesh, 157. Tom Hogan, first time we've said his name in a while, 202. Jeffrey Boyson, 206. Magida, 209. And Florian, 210. We have not seen any sighting of Tiago.
And if these weren't down and back 5 times, these farmer carry times would be significantly faster. They'd be probably sub 90 seconds. So the fact that you're having to go down and back 5 times, you're having to hold on to it for an additional 30 seconds, which isn't easy to do.
No. And I want to say before you go here, Dave, that point of the chalk and Michael Sandbach, he went 157. That's 1 second slower than Ronkovic and 2 seconds slower than the leader, Toby. So whatever happened there, he cleared another hurdle. If mental issues have been one of his struggles in the past, he cleared another one. Maybe he's building mental momentum towards wall balls, knowing, look at, things are popping up and I'm handling it.
Just think how much faster he would have been if he had that chalk though.
Maybe he discovered his new tactic, no chalk.
Well, in reality, the amount of time he would have taken putting the chalk on to actually having it be effective was probably a null and void split. So.
We have him coming in here. This is a big station.
And now, Bracken, I consider you the expert on form. He still is looking very smooth and relaxed.
Yeah, from the start on the first run, he wasn't the form you'd pick out as being the prettiest, most dynamic runner, but his form has not changed one bit. And that's kind of the key to this sport, to hybrid racing, OCR. Anytime your running is compromised, it's not necessarily how fast are you, it's how little can you degrade. And I have not seen any degradation in his running yet. He always was a little hunched, a little stooped, but he's keeping that the entire time.
That said,
I think we're going to see Ronkovic reel him in.
He's such a stable lunger. Big strides. You can't fake that. He's taken his strides, his knees are behind his toes. When you're extending out like that and dropping deep in the hole with your hamstrings, you can or you can't. That's not a decision point right there. He's eating up ground doing that.
Tim is 30 seconds off Sandbach.
There's still so much that could happen with these top three.
Toby,
Ronkovic is going to make a pass here.
Back.
Look at this. Oh, this is such a transfer of energy here to Ronkovic. When you just gobble someone up like this.
Oh, there.
The big Austrian is making a move.
You talk about mental hurdles. How does Michael Sandbach react to this move?
Yeah, and you can see it now in their ground contact time coming up out of the hole. Ronkovic is not pausing yet, and Sandbach's starting to get that little bit of a wiggle at the bottom, a little bit of a pause, and he's leaning to the side, getting up out of the hole. That's the first time we've seen his form start to crack.
Yeah, that core is.
And
fading.
this is all muscular too. It's not like, hey, just go with him here. Like, no, you can't go with him.
Yeah.
The totality of this event, what it does to your body, it just slowly grinds you down. And who can avoid that the best is really who does well in these events. And Ronkovic is just proven over and over again that he is just steady Eddie all the way through.
And they still have another down and back, I believe. And so this is that time right here where he can put his foot right on his throat. If he can get through this set here, he could walk off here with a 20-second gap by going mostly unbroken here.
And I don't think Sandbach can outball him.
Well, and if he could,
no.
He'd want a head full of steam. You don't want to get to a place that's been your nemesis having just been gapped for the first time today.
So it looks like we've got Lauren, then Meg, and then Alundra as our top three women so far, and they're on the sled pull.
And she has a gap. Lauren's down, and they're probably 2/3 of the way back. Miriam comes in hot.
Lauren is someone who has said specifically she does not like the sleds. So again, if she's ahead, and I called this before, if she's ahead going into those burpee broad jumps, wow, I don't know that the others can catch her unless she has an absolute blow up.
The only thing I've seen Meg Jacoby look human on are the burpee broad jumps. She's certainly not bad at them, but if you had to list out her profile across the board, you would see a slight dip, at least historically, at burpee broad jumps. And Lauren Weeks, that is a strength of hers. So this will be very, very interesting to see what happens here. And Alundra, what is Alundra still doing here? Where were we in not talking about Alundra before this race?
She ran with Meg Jacoby in, I believe, New York.
Yeah.
Like for most of the race. And, Meg obviously missed a lap and they got, out of touch there. But for the most part, Alundra Greenlee matched her step for step in that race.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Meg's penalty there kind of overshadowed and took the story away from how well Alondra ran.
So look at Alex gained almost 20 seconds on Sandbach on the lunges.
Oh, man.
That's a huge swing.
Let's take a look at these lunges splits as the women work on the sled here. Well, this isn't right. That didn't update correctly.
Toby reeled him in a little bit too on those lunges.
Alexander 309, Toby 313, Vinish 320, Sandbach 326.
And just to interrupt you, Lauren off of the sled pull with a significant lead.
And if you're in the low threes, that's a legitimate lunge time.
And then we have Alondra and Meg.
No, Alondra and Meg got off there with purpose. They looked better than a lot of the men did getting off of that station right there. They both had heads forward, moving out, and look who's moving her way up now. Michaela off in fourth, probably a 10 to 15 second gap. She had a much bigger gap coming off that sled push, so she already made up time on the run in the pole.
It's easy to forget too that Alondra Greenlee finished fourth in Las Vegas. She was only 10 seconds off the podium. I think Miriam Von Rohr took the third place spot. She was 10 seconds off a world championship podium. So she clearly has what it takes.
So looking at the initial battle we thought, which was Michaela versus Meg, as the two fastest by far in the world right now. Michaela's first sled push, 2:43, whereas up at the front, you had 1:53 for Miriam, 2 flat for Lauren, Magdalena went 2:04, Alondra 2:15, and Meg was 2:18. So Michaela gave up a lot of time up front there. But then we head on over to the sled pull, and we have Michaela number 1 at 3:03, Viola 3:18, Yane 3:21, Miriam 3:24, Alondra 3:26, and Meg 3:29. So she took 26 seconds back on Meg just on the pull after giving up 30 seconds on the push. You ever seen someone be that slow on the push into that dominant on the pull before?
No, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. How do you go from 9th on one to first by a landslide on the other? Unless that's strategy.
That would be interesting. I mean, Michaela is still very new to the sport, and for her to whip out a strategy like that would be very brave. It would.
Let's go, Tara. Come on.
We've got Alex coming into the wall balls now. Oh, sorry, Sandbach. Michael Sandbach. No, sorry, Alex into the wall balls first. And at this point, is there anyone close enough that can catch Alex on the wall balls?
Yeah. He's on 6, I think 7, 8, 9. Let's call it 10 rep cushion here. You can make up 10.
Sandbach started 15 seconds after Alex.
Oh, but his reps are just slower. You can see his down. He's not bouncing up out of the hole there. He's just repping slower to begin with.
I think we might see Tim here bypass Sandbach on these wall balls.
So the question is, where's Toby? Where is Tobias? Is he going to come in here
right now
and do something crazy? He gets punished on having to squat because he's so tall, but he gets to release that wall ball up right next to the target.
Now, we have not stated this, but the top 3 women who finish here get the automatic championships. And at
we have a
Sandbach picked the ball up, set it back down.
Might be letting that position go. He might be letting that spot drift away from him.
Oh, a rep of 1. And a pull punch. I've never seen a break like that this early into a high-level race. He didn't make it 20 before he broke. Like you said, Kent, he picked the ball up, put it back down, and rested longer. and then did a rep of 1. Now he's back to probably cranking out 10. This is, that's mental demons coming out right there. There's no other way to explain that.
I just gotta hope he keeps it together here. You gotta think that he's in the back of his mind, he's remembering that race where he quit.
Yeah,
He's got to pull through here, even if it takes him, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. You got to finish this out.
yeah. If you ever want to be able to do it again, today it has to happen.
He is sitting there. I think in his head, and this is obviously guessing, but I think he's given up on chasing Alex, and now he's staring Toby and Tim right in the face and seeing them push. And the question is, does he have it in him to answer the bell?
And we saw this play out. Alex got away early. Toby is reeling them in, but he's run out of real estate.
I think Toby will still wind up on the podium, but it's going to be close.
I think we're going to have Alex, Tim, and Toby as your podium.
And a bunch of these guys, their squat is right on the line of what judges are going to consider acceptable. And what we can't hear are no reps happening. That could have explained what Sandbach's frustration was. Since he did a 1 rep, punched the pole, and then did 15 on his next one, he could have been getting no rep. And Tim was right on the verge of depth on a couple, and we can't hear if anyone's getting no rep or not.
I think you're probably right. I think that's what happened on that one with Sandbach, is he probably got the no rep and was frustrated. But he is breaking so often, and I'm looking over at Tobias and Tim. They're not. They're keeping much more consistent.
57-28.
Brankovic crossing the line as the European champion.
Oh, I can't wait to race this guy in a couple weeks. So much respect, honestly, for this guy. He deserves this moment, man. He has finished 2nd and 3rd at every championship event, and he finally overcomes it, gets that title, and I'm happy for him, man.
Tim's struggling to get low right now. Tim's really struggling to manage that depth. But he's going to cross in 2nd here.
There we go.
This is the crazy thing about this race is Sandbach probably feels like he's cracking and blowing up, and he's still on pace for a 59-minute performance. It's hard to keep that in perspective when you feel this horrible.
Alex with an official 57-26.
Wow.
And 58.
Both Tim and Alex are coming over for the U.S. Championships.
And look at he
Sandbach
hangs on.
He hangs on.
Good for him. That is doing it the hard way right there.
Now, will that be viewed from him as a collapse, or will it be viewed as a victory to hang on?
Toby was only 5 reps behind. What a close by
Sandy
Tobias.
with a 58-44.
58-44 after all that. That's so fast. See Miriam just sold out for the line on that burpee broad jump. Just made it over and stumbled back across it. That's a that's a match right there.
Look at the distance she's getting on those leaps, and she is not a tall woman, but she gets some great distance.
No, she's a compact little powerhouse.
Yeah, she doesn't do that step-up technique either. Just
Michaela
springs right up
either.
and jumps.
Her technique reminds me of Hunter McIntyre. It's a similar hop-up, stay low.
And that technique got a lot less effective when they took away being able to put one forearm in front of you distance from your feet to your hands. When it moved down to half a forearm, and then it's just tougher to keep that forward momentum and lean when you can't drop your arms out in front of you. So to see these women still doing it without being able to put their arms out, it's a pretty taxing technique.
Where's Magida here?
I was just thinking that. With Tom Hogan across the line.
Is Hogan in fifth? Oh, Boyson
Florian
snuck in
came
ahead of Hogan. Gita across.
There's Megiddo. Now, how is that race viewed for Megiddo?
He's got to be disappointed.
There's Thiago. Thiago, the only one capable of standing. I cannot wait to see these burpee brow jump splits. You have a lot of different techniques, a lot of people clumped up together.
Peter Schwarzkopf finishing up his still.
Ida taking a long break on burpee brow jumps there. Bent over, hands on knees. These reps are getting slow for Ida.
Other than wall balls, this is probably my least favorite station. It's just a grind to get through these 80 meters.
Yeah,
So
I would agree with that.
Lauren came out of the burpee broad jumps with a 2:48, and Miriam with 3 minutes.
Wow. Rebecca with 3:03, Magdalena 3:03, Viola 3:04, and then it dropped down. Meg Jacoby 3:23. She gave up 19 seconds there. 19 seconds to to third place. She gave up. Oh my goodness. She gave up like 40 seconds to first place. Michaela 3:34. So she's still 12 seconds ahead of Michaela on that station. Michaela gave up 50 seconds to Lauren.
Wow. Like, that is such a swing station. I think it gets underestimated by most people, but it's huge swings on that station.
11th and 12th coming through there, Alondra and Tara, 3:48, 3:49. Is not the turning point you want, because this is where the race kind of tips, right, Ryan? You come off burpee broad jumps and the race is officially, you're in the back half. Even though it's the third station, the second half of the race has started after burpee broad jumps. And that's not the way you want to start the second half, is by giving up a minute.
No, not at all. And you got to know that these girls knew coming in that the hype was all around Megan and Michaela. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to prove that wrong, man. And right now, I mean, this is why we run the race, right? Like, you just never know how it's going to play out. And I think some of these girls might be a little further behind than they'd like to be at this point in the race.
And this is the beauty of hybrid racing. You can't just look down and say, this person has this PR in a 10K or half marathon, and so you know they're not going to be any worse than X, Y, or Z. There are so many components combined that one little hiccup there, and now you can't access any of your other skills. And on the other side, one person nails a station and gets ahead of steam, and suddenly you see someone like Lauren Weeks sitting here all alone on the rower. And what happened to this this Titan clash of Michaela and Meg? Suddenly they're not even in the top three they're not on screen. Lauren Weeks is just alone.
This is a power move, man. I mean, Lauren is letting the world know that she is back. You know, people, you know, she the 2020 Hyrox world champ, and then obviously we know she had her baby, but she's letting everybody know, like, hey, don't forget about me. And I honestly don't see anyone being able to catch her at this point. There's no weaknesses in Lauren Weeks' game. She has zero weaknesses.
She's going to have to fade on the runs, and they are going to have to hammer to have any shot at this, because her weak stations are done. If such a thing exists as a weak station for her, her low stations are gone.
Is there anyone in the field with the sheer foot speed to run her down on the runs, though, that could take that much time back? Like, you know, I know she's far back, but someone like Ida has that foot speed or someone along that lines. But she is still on her own on the rower, and we've been how long now?
It was over a minute. Meg's fast enough to run her down. Michaela if her runs from her PR race could be replicated, could run her down. But neither of them, well, Michaela finally comes in on screen here, but Alondra's in second place.
And Alondra can put in a heck of a row.
There is nothing like having a minute plus cushion halfway through the race, though, because you know Lauren could come off this row and say, "I'm going to use this next 1 kilometer run and just kind of gather myself for the finishing stretch of this race." I mean, she's in control, and she can dictate really when she wants to push and when she wants to dial it back.
Meg just arrived. And this row, I believe, the row is the best possible station to have a lead coming into, because you get to sit and calmly look around and watch and wait and chill and breathe. And it's one of the stations where you can coast and still work well. You can't coast lunges. It's hard to really coast some of these stations, but this is one where you can put out a decent effort while also recovering. And you see very clearly there's no distractions. You can just watch when people are coming in and then up your work rate. So she might come out of here really, really kind of almost recovered.
Yeah, but one thing we haven't talked about, and again, is, again, you say with Michaela will be someone who does have that at the end, that 100 wall balls unbroken in her pocket, and she can throw out that trump card. So
you think Michaela will go unbroken?
She has in the past, yeah, and she has the ability to make that up.
I know Miriam has, but Michaela did?
has, yes. So I believe Michaela did in her race as well.
Wow.
And that's the trump card, right? So how much time could that make up on Lauren and Alondra? I mean, it's definitely in play. I think Lauren's gap here is, as long as she manages that gap well, she should be able to take it. But Michaela and Alondra are not out of it.
Ryan, what's your gap? What's that time you put at? In OCR, you want a 90-second lead. That's a burpee lead. If I have 90 seconds, I feel safe. What's your gap that you know coming into wall balls, I'm safe?
I mean, anything over 30 seconds would be nice. If I can get through 15 to 20 reps before the next guy comes in there, I feel like that's a safe cushion.
Well, she got off at 37:45 here. Let's keep an eye on that clock.
Where is Linda Meyer? Does anyone know?
No. I'm going to take a look at burpee broad jump, see what we see here.
And that was a 4:14 row for Lauren.
Linda Meyer has not shown a result on burpee broad jump. Let's go back to sled pull.
Now she
Linda
has
Meyer
had a history.
She's not in the race. She's either not showing up on her timing chip's not working like you in your last race, or she's not in the race any longer.
In one of the chats, they've said that she has not been in the race. She was not there. So she must have DNS'd.
Let's go, Meg. Come on.
Oh my God, there's nothing worse than knowing you ran an extra lap.
So in our ear, producer just said, Meg ran an extra lap. Now, then that is possible. If that's true, there is no credit that's given to you. If you run too few laps, you give a penalty, but it's not like you can come out and then do 2 1/4 laps on your next one and call it even. You just have to eat that penalty. That is heartbreaking.
So this is Meg's third Hyrox, and now in 2 of them, she's had lap issues with laps. In the first one, she skipped a lap, and then this one, she's done the extra. I think it should wash.
They're both off a minute 45 behind Lauren.
Wow.
Minute 50, maybe. She was off at 37:45.
To have that big of a lead halfway through the event is unheard of. Lauren
she
Weeks
can do reps
of
5 on wall balls if she keeps this.
Nothing ever seems to phase her too. Like traveling across the pond, like jet lag, like none of these things. She always shows up in these big races. She's the Terminator.
Now, so far, 4 women have come off. Lauren has the 4th time. So she has the slowest time on the row of 4:14, but the fastest is 4:11. So she did exactly what you were talking about. She got to control the pace. She only lost 3 seconds, and she came off there the best.
Oh yeah, she's going to be running super well this lap.
Yeah, so we have Michaela at 4:11, Alondra 4:13, great row from her. Miriam 4:13, Lauren 4:14, Meg Jacoby 4:24, Jacqueline Lippenmeyer 4:25, Viola Oberlander 4:26. So the top 3 the top 4 are the top 4. Everyone after that is starting to give up 10 to 15 seconds per station. And Meg is now giving up a minute on her extra run lap, minimum.
That's got to be disheartening for her now. Does she try to get it back all together, and will she be able to mentally say, okay, I'm going to push harder, or is she thinking, all right, this race is done for me, I'm going to focus on the U.S. championships and try to get my qualifying spot there? Or does she feel secure in the fact that her time that she's put into the 61:56 will hold true?
Well, that should hold, but this row spoke to the fact that something's going on with her now. I mean, she lost 12, 14 seconds to these women on the row, which is not indicative of someone who's in I'm getting this back mode.
Well, we do know that in New York, when she accidentally skipped the lap, at that point, she kind of mailed in the rest of it. She didn't give her best effort at the point because she said, mentally it got to her and she knew she had thrown it away. And I think it might be the same case here. But I still believe that going into the U.S. and going into the world, she is still going to be a massive threat.
I mean, maybe she came in and, she wasn't quite on her A game. And then you start bleeding out time, and then that's another factor in there. And, she's just slowly but surely kind of drifting off the back here. And I don't see her being able to kind of reel these girls back in.
And there's a difference between coming in to see what you can do at a championship like this and coming in only to win. When you're coming here to win and to set a new world record and to show everyone how good you are, when something like this happens, it hits differently than I'm just here to compete and find something out. She wasn't here to find anything out. She was here to let everyone else know that she was the clear best in the world. And when a hiccup like that arrives, that all goes out. She lost all of her goals on one lap. Everything went out the window.
Here we got Lauren starting her farmer's carry. She theoretically could be done the farmer's carry before second place arrives.
Jeez.
She's
Very
putting the world on
upright back.
notice that she is back.
And she's still 6 months postpartum. Like, she's back to as good as she ever was, and she's 6 months postpartum. Which means that this isn't the top. This isn't her ceiling. This isn't the best we'll even see this year out of her.
I think her ceiling might come in the UK later on. Now, we just saw Ida Steensgaard come out, and she's obviously having a bit of an off race today. Has it surprised you that she has dropped back so far, and is it maybe a case of some of the higher power output maybe taking her off guard?
We've talked about it before on podcasts or races, but there's just no way for every athlete in a championship race to PR on the same day. When you get surrounded by a bunch of monsters, someone has to get chewed up and spit out the back. That's just the nature of it. You can't all feel great the whole time. And you're surrounded by so many good people, and when your strengths don't align with theirs, it's really, really tough. So I don't, honestly, I wouldn't read too far into it. I know it's disappointing for her, but this is her second race. She's at a championship which has world championship talent level in it. And sometimes this is just how it rolls.
And it's not like an event where there's one modality where you're just running, and if you're having an off day, you might leak out 5 or 6 seconds per mile. That doesn't happen in Hyrox. You can lose so much more time than you can in just like an event where you're doing like a half marathon, for example. You're going to bleed out way more time, just like you would if you were climbing up a mountain. You're just going to lose way more time, way more quickly.
And Lauren is out of the farmer's carry, and we've seen that Michaela has started to put a gap on Alondra here, taking second place.
Yeah, Alondra's now in a battle because Miriam is really, really impressing me. her cadence and her work rate at every station is kind of astounding. Or, you know, Michaela is not necessarily the most technical athlete. She obviously has a massive engine, but Miriam just clicks off every single station like clockwork.
And she has to know that her bread and butter, you know, is still ahead of her. She's like, I just have to keep these girls close coming into wall balls. I might be able to pass 1, 2, maybe 3 of them. You know, there's a chance she goes sub 3 minutes at 100 wall balls. That's insane.
It's been 1:10 since Lauren left. She left at about 44:50, 44:52 maybe. So we're going to be looking at 1.5 minutes almost. So Michaela took some time back, about 1.5 minutes. Took some time on that run-in station together, but we're still looking at 90 seconds.
Based off the math that I'm doing here, I'm thinking we're looking around 64 minutes here for Lauren Weeks, which isn't significantly fast based off some of the seed times coming into this race.
I wonder if a bunch of these women just blew up early. If this just got out, if Lauren Weeks set the tone fast, everyone had to overreach because of it, and she is most capable of living in that dying zone. Everyone's just dying and bleeding out, and she just handles it the best.
Turn it up, Mac. Let's go. Let's go.
She's going to make you suffer. We know that.
So 153 Michaela on that farmer's carry. Alondra 209, Lauren 217. So Lauren gave back, 24 seconds right there, and still has a 90-second lead.
The question is, can Michaela make that same move on the lunges?
I don't know, but it's impressing me. When you see these people put up these times at these races where you see there's outliers here, these runs are so fast, or sleds, you really don't know until you see them if they're the truth, and she looks like the truth. I mean, Lauren went and poisoned the well for everyone today, and she's still out there fighting and has moved up through the field. So win, lose, or draw here, I think Michaela's the real deal, and I'm impressed.
Well, and you think of her
Lauren
as
could
CrossFitter
lose
when
20
she came into
seconds.
There you go. There you
this.
go.
You think of her as a CrossFitter when she came into this, and her running is just outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say Lauren can lose 20 seconds on every run and every station from here on out and still hold on to the lead.
All right, so we have our first answer about Meg Jacoby. She went 2:03. That's now the second fastest farmer's carry. So she's back charging.
Yeah.
And it's an event where your energy kind of ebbs and flows. You know, you can feel bad 1 minute and then have energy the next. And, you know, maybe she was going through a rough patch and now she's finding herself again. That's very common in this event.
Well, how hard is that going to hit you when you've flown all the way over there? You've prepped, you've gotten ready, you're in the best shape of your life. You're ready you're the top 2 seeds, you're ready to battle.
Come on, Tara, let's
And
go.
halfway through the race, you throw it away on a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't help but suffer a little mentally from that. And, you know, maybe it just took her a little time to click back in and say, okay, no, I'm not done. I'm racing. I'm back in this. I've got more in me.
Well, and Ryan, you and I have traveled for events. You know how it is. If someone's not paying your way over there, you're taking a look and going, what's worst case scenario? For someone like her, who's in her mind the #1 in the world, worst case scenario, I take 3rd place. I cover the costs of my trip. Everything's good. Maybe I stay an extra day and live it up a little bit. And those things start creeping in your mind too as soon as something like this happens. It's not just, oh, I lost 1st place, I lost 2nd. Now it's, shoot, I just lost money on this trip. And you can't have things like that going into your mind.
Let's go, Mac. Come on. Come on. Let's go.
Lauren coming into the lunges already.
58:04, she picked up her bag. And she's, like she always is, just clicking away.
And look how strong that core looks on down. Like we talked about Michael Sandbacher earlier, getting a little lean, a little wobbly side to side, the core weakening. Lauren looks strong and rigid. and huge long steps.
Had that first little false step there. But other than that, she went unbroken on the first length. Right back to work.
I might have been wrong about my math here, boys. She might be 62.
Her 62, I believe, would be a PR for Lauren.
We'll know once she comes out of here, you know, a better idea of where she might finish. Because you're looking at about 4 minutes-ish for the kilometer plus 3:30 for the wall balls. So add about 7.5 minutes once she comes out of here, and that's about where she's going to finish.
And here's Michaela coming in.
She is a minute 23, minute 24 behind. So she made up another, again, these are rough estimates, but another 5 seconds or so on that run she took back, and she needed 15.
And she may be making a little ground here, but she's just starting, and Lauren's more than halfway through.
There are some stations you come into and your first couple reps are slow until you get into it. Lunges, your first rep is your fastest rep. Your first down is your fastest. And after that, you just slow a little bit. So the fact that she wasn't noticeably faster on the way down, again, means she's not going to take back a minute or something crazy here.
And I guarantee that Lauren is well within herself. You know, Dave, when I ran the North American Championships in Chicago, you made that comment when I was on the lunges that you still thought I was in control, and I was. And I think Lauren's in that same place right now. She knows she has well over a minute lead. She doesn't need to rush these. She just needs to close it out.
Meg could still take third place. Look at this. Meg's charging. She's maybe
comeback.
She's 3/4 of a length down from third place, as far as I can tell. I would love to be seeing her run sprints right now. Yeah, that's. How cool would that be if they come in 3 or 4 or 5 into wall balls and just charge right up through people?
Look at the
right,
length
they've
of her
both
strides.
gone unbroken for 100 wall balls.
Yeah, they're gonna make up a minute on women.
It becomes a question here, not does a woman go unbroken on wall balls, it's how many of them do.
Or is this one of those scenarios where everyone's so beat down that no one can go unbroken today?
Well, it looks like now that Michaela has made up maybe, I'm going to say 10 feet on Lauren over the lunges.
Yeah.
And Lauren is out and gone on her final run.
She was 53, 23, 24 dropping off. 53, 24.
I'm not looking forward. I'm not looking forward to the day when doing 100 wall balls unbroken is the norm.
That's not a world I want to live in, Ryan.
No.
You're going to take your championships now and bow out before that's necessary?
I'll just have to come in with a big enough lead.
That's right. It is interesting that has become a thing with the women that, 100 wall balls is not the norm, but it is something that happens. And I can only think of one guy I think I saw do it, and was in that
Isaiah.
Yeah, in Miami. Look at Miriam. Good Lord. She just has pistons. They're just going up and down with no pause at a fast rate.
If she could get her running game a little tidied up, look out.
There's a good chance
minute
that
17,
Megan and
minute
Miriam
18.
both catch. That they both catch Michaela.
This run from Michaela is massive.
And Alundra is out not far behind Michaela. What did I tell you about Miriam? She's going to be within 30 seconds going into those wall balls.
She went past Meg on that, and Meg went past everyone.
Man, we have a battle on our hands here.
So Michaela gained 7 seconds on the lunges.
Oh, we have a shoe issue. Miriam's not out.
No.
Miriam took her shoe off
that's
and is
devastating.
retying it.
Look at her just
At this
shaking
point,
her
you
head.
gotta go. You gotta go barefoot. Leave the shoe behind. You gotta run.
Yeah, and
gotta
you
go.
don't tie a full knot. You just tie the quickest knot. This is not a loop and lace type thing. Just kick the shoe. You're right, Ryan. Kick the shoe off, kick the sock off, and go.
She was tying a full Windsor knot there. Like that was a lot of tying.
Yeah. Oh my.
If that was
goodness.
early in the race, yeah, sure, tie it up, do what you got to do. But 1 kilometer and 100 wall balls, leave
All that
it
work she did
behind.
to-
You got to go.
The effort you just put in to pass Meg and all of them on that to give 30 seconds right back there, there's no shoe in the world worth that.
And that's about exactly what she made up on the lunges was 30 seconds and gave it back on that shoe tie. She was 321. Oh, sorry, Meg was a 303. Well, Miriam ended up
And I'll tell
321
you-
because of her shoe tie.
Oh,
And I'll tell you
my
exactly
goodness.
what happened. This has happened to me in training. When you lift that bag off your back and it falls onto it can nip your heel and rip your shoe right off. She dropped that bag and it came down on the back of her shoe and pulled it right off her foot.
She had to
That's
untie the
crazy.
shoe, get her foot back in it, and then retie the shoe.
So, Ryan, would you have had the wherewithal to kick it off and run, or would you have fought it?
No, I would have kicked it. I wouldn't even have thought twice.
Really?
How
Yeah.
would that hurt your run though? I mean, like in a one sock foot with the slick floors in these convention centers, wouldn't that be a terribly difficult run on a sock foot? Would you throw the sock off too?
Yeah, you
Sock
might have
off.
to take the sock off too.
Because, I mean, if you think about that, that's at worst a 10-second difference on your run.
That's crushing.
I don't know if I would have had the wherewithal. I would have done what she did. I would have tried to put my finger in there and force my foot back in, and then after 3 attempts, panic and start untying it. Oh,
Yeah, we just saw
That
we
is-
just saw on
that's
screen,
a nightmare.
We saw Michaela. We saw Michaela ahead of Lauren. They're not on the same lap, so she has not made the pass yet.
that is the stuff of nightmares. That's the stuff you have a nightmare about the week leading up to a race, and you think, oh, thank God that could never actually happen.
We're more used to seeing shoes come off in OCR, not in this.
All right, so here are our splits. Meg Jacoby, 303. Alondra, 309. Miriam with the shoe debacle, 321. Viola, 329. Michaela, 329. Lauren, 336.
Lauren picked up the wall ball at 58.15.
So we're looking at potentially sub 62.
She's right back. She's right back.
And I heard her on a podcast. She mentioned that she was not worried about, the time change, the jet lag. Like she was not going to be fazed by any of that. And she's proven that right now.
Well, she's done this so many times too. Now she knows what to expect. She knows how her body's going to react. She knows what she needs to eat. That experience is invaluable. She looks.
And she has a
smooth
CrossFit
and steady.
background. She does hundreds of wall balls every single week. Like she's not going to fade here.
She might have a 50, 60 wall ball lead by the time Michaela gets in there. So the real question, and I think we just saw Meg pass Alondra, is can Meg work herself back into that podium spot now? With Miriam faltering with the shoe tying incidents, Meg may still get in there.
Yeah. Meg's going to extend
Michaela,
on her
minute
on this
16
run.
down.
Minute 16. Yeah, she's going to extend on the run because Meg's the best runner in this field. And then Miriam is going to turn herself inside out on these wall balls. And Meg's going to have to as well. It's crazy that Meg's closing knowing she's probably going to go unbroken thinking I can snag in. And there's someone behind her thinking the same thing about her. Here comes Alondra. Alondra's on. Where's Meg? Meg's on. Meg's hitting the top of the target, too.
I haven't seen Lauren break yet, have you?
No.
But she's just looking so smooth and steady.
Is Lauren just going to go unbroken now? Is that just the thing you do?
She doesn't need to. She's just doing it just for the heck of it now.
That would be the ultimate stamp on this race.
Yeah. This is
Meg is
instantly
confused.
top 3 performances of all time.
I think Meg is confused and thinks she needs to use the men's target. She's just throwing that thing so high.
Lauren's done. 101.14.
Ooh. Wow.
She just go unbroken there?
I didn't see her break at all.
Goodness.
If my math
Worlds is going to be
correct,
so fun.
she did those in just over 3 minutes. It was like 3:03.
101.12 is her official time.
Shame on all of us for not just saying that Lauren should win this today. She just put all of us in our place. I love it.
Meg is at 55-56.
Yeah, your European champion, Lauren Weeks.
Her
And-
wall balls were 305.
I'll be honest, I think the women's field for Worlds is going to look very, very similar to the field we're seeing right now.
You know, I've always questioned wall balls as the final station, but when you have a race this tight, it really does make for an exciting finish.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I knew what the rep count was here, but
I'd love to see them
What's
come
Meg's
off and have to run
cadence?
400.
I'd like to see a nice 200-meter sprint.
somebody's about to finish. I don't know who it is.
Lauren's recovered.
There goes Michaela. 102.46-ish. So who gets that third spot in the guaranteed position in Worlds?
Look at Miriam, how strong she is. That ball never comes down below her face. She catches it, and her arms don't move one bit to compensate for it.
But you see what I said
I don't
about
know
her
how she
cadence?
does
Like,
that.
she
Yeah.
makes up an extra rep every 3 reps.
It's like her arms lock out there and won't go lower.
What a comeback for Meg. Running an extra lap and still coming third.
Really
That's
solid time
outstanding.
there.
Let's go! Let's go!
It's
Unfortunately, this is becoming the story. She's run 3 Hyrox and she's had lap issues on 2 of them.
Let's go! Let's go!
I think we got to get her coach there counting laps for her all the time there.
Well, isn't that Rich? Isn't Rich working
Yep.
with her?
That would be rich.
That's just poor coaching. That's what that is.
Alondra barely sneaking by Miriam there. 3 of the top 4, three of the top 4 Americans in the women's field.
Did Alondra just get in before Miriam caught her?
Yeah, it looks like it. Wow.
Wow.
That was
2
every bit
seconds.
it's every bit as dramatic as we expected. However, we did have Meg and Michaela battle it back and forth, but we got the bonus of Lauren Weeks coming in and restamping herself as this is my game.
You guys ready for some wall ball stats?
And that meant
Miriam,
finishing
255.
my last lap to go in. In my brain, I said,
Lauren,
I should have
305.
been
Meg,
that
G,
first. That's what I
314.
did. And then I get into burpee broad jumps and everyone's ahead of me, and I'm like,
How?
what the fuck? Like, then I'm freaking out.
And she still plays that. Still took that podium, baby.
I'm sorry, I missed that interview start, and that wasn't in my headphones. Sorry if I interrupted that. I was so
That's
blown
all
away
right,
by
go
Miriam's 2-minute and 55-second wall ball that I lost my hearing.
Do we have confirmation that Meg did run an extra lap? Like, did that happen, or is that speculation?
No, that's what Meg just said. She ran an extra lap coming into the burpee broad jumps.
I think that's what I just blocked out with my blabbering.
And still,
Could
to
she
come
have
back,
won?
I don't think she could have won. but I definitely believe she would have came second.
Well, let's take a look at what these runs are. Should be able to see that now, right?
Yeah. Now, again, maybe she's more motivated, thinking she's right on Lauren's heels. Maybe she pushes a little harder. Who knows? So maybe she could have. But I think more realistically, I don't think anyone was catching Lauren today, no matter what they did. It was just she was going to put it in there. Tara Jackson coming across the line.
Run totals here: 31:22 for Ida, 33:29 for Lauren. If that's accurate, if she was 2 minutes faster, Ida, than everyone else, that's outstanding. So Lauren at 33:29, then Magdalena 34:07, Jacqueline Lippenmeyer 34:12, Michaela 34:24. So all these women are still within a minute of each other. And Tara Jackson 34:43, Alondra 34:46, Meg 35:04.
35:04. Now you got to take, because how much time do you think Ryan would be added for an extra lap?
So here we go.
I mean,
Run
you're looking
two.
at a minute minimum.
She went 4:20, 4:33, 5:50, back down to 4:38, 4:33, 4:39. So her second slowest run was 4:47 on the last one, and then she went 5:50. So she added over a minute of run. The runs on either side of that were 4:33 and 4:38, and then she went 5:50. We're talking a minute 12, minute 15 she added on.
And how far back was she off the lead?
I'm going to pull up the total here in a second. So let's say minute 15-ish. She was exactly 2 minutes behind Lauren, but she was 27 seconds behind Michaela. So she does not beat Lauren, but she takes second.
Well, like I said, we got that battle. We expected that battle, and we got it. It's a shame that there was that extra lap, because, you know what? It's just going to make Manchester that much more exciting.
This women's field is outstanding right now. And there's parity. I love it. Except maybe Lauren. Maybe Lauren's back to just being the dominant animal that she always was.
That was a Hunter-esque performance by Lauren Weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do get one
Maybe
comment.
a
we might
Ryan
as well-
Kent in Chicago.
We do get one comment, and we might as well talk about it a little bit, is why is Lauren Weeks, this was a comment on the YouTube, why is Lauren Weeks European champion? And does anyone want to explain how this system works, or shall I do that?
You guys can take it.
I'll explain how it works. Ryan, you can explain why it's going to change most likely next year. Currently, for the regional championships, anyone is allowed to qualify into it and run it based on time. So your nationality of origin does not play into it. In some other sports, you have to be living in that region, and others you have to qualify in by competing in that region. Currently in Hyrox, the rules state that the top 15 times in the world are the first come, first serve for regional championships. So that's why we had one American male over here at the European Championship, and why we just had a U.S. woman be the European champion. So that's how the rules currently stand.
And it will be the same in the U.S. It will be the same in the U.S., and that's why before I mentioned that I think this women's field going into Worlds is going to look very similar. I would be surprised to see somebody else sneak into that, especially on the contender side. Maybe down and closer to 15, you might see some change-ups here and there. But this is what I expect to see from the women's field at Worlds. I do believe there'll be a shake-up in the men's.
In your opinion, do you think that these regional championships should just be exclusive to the residents of that nation?
I'm torn because as a competitor and a fan of the sport, I love the fact that we get an extra opportunity or two each year to see the European athletes compete against the North American. There's such a separation there with that ocean that we don't see each other than world championships. And so you only get one chance to see where everyone really stacks up. So from that point of view, I love seeing it happen more often. But from the strictly naming aspect of being an American be the European Championship, it's a confusing system. So I don't mind if they would just call it the European Open and just let everyone throw down against each other, because I love seeing all the competition.
I'm
What
with you
about
there.
if you want?
That's great. All right, Bracken, I'm with you there. I think that open idea is a lot of fun and can definitely be good. But for the sake of making the worlds more special, I would like to see a Eastern Hemisphere and a Western Hemisphere championship, and those could be open for people of those regions. So essentially, if you're on the Eastern Hemisphere, it's open to whoever wants to challenge for that title. And then the Western Hemisphere, same thing. And then the top, and then we have anyway, there's a longer way to go through it that I've gone through many times, but I would like to see it that way. I'd like to see the Eastern Hemisphere compete as an open and the Western Hemisphere compete as an open. So if you live in that geographic area, that would be the open that you'd be allowed to go to.
That makes sense.
I would think
and Ida here.
That would get the world's been excited. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ida, who's having a tough race and only her second, still looks good when she's moving on the wall balls. Her form doesn't look like someone who's cracked. Obviously, she's taking breaks and she's having a hard time out here, but her form still looked pretty compact and good. This isn't going to be the race she wanted, but how many times can you take an OCR world champion and put them into a competition like this and have them perform as well as she has so far?
And she's never been an OCR person where you thought of Ida is super powerful, is super strong. She's always been a very, very excellent obstacle practitioner and great runner. And it's great to see Lauren in there cheering her on it. But Ida, the one thing we know about, will not quit. She will not give up. She will give everything she has. And she's just a testament to what a great athlete needs to be out there and what a true pro is.
I love seeing these girls rally behind her too, supporting her all the way to the finish.
Listen, I cracked at my first Hyrox on wall balls. I spent nearly 7 minutes there at the end of the race. That's not the way your form looks when you're totally cracked. She's obviously not having her best day, but she still is competent on these. You don't take an endurance athlete that's a world champion and put them into a functional fitness competition like this and appear like that. That's not how you look. She's something special. Most endurance athletes could not step in and do 100 wall balls like this at all, let alone look pretty competent doing it.
And again, showing some great community and the people all cheering her on. Like, it's just awesome to see this sport developing that way with that kind of community and that kind of camaraderie. And Lauren just showing what a great champion she is, being the one right there beside her, cheering her on. Yeah, so why don't we take a look at the final results? So we'll get them up on the screen here. So, first place, Alex Ronkovic. Second place, Tim Weinig. Third place, Michael Sandbach. Fourth, Tobias Lautfein. Fifth, Florian Gast. Sixth, Tom Hogan. Seventh, Jeffrey Voisin. Eighth, David Begida. Ninth, Jonathan Wynn. And 10th, Tiago Musa. And what jumps out at you out there? Is there anything that really grabs you as a surprise? Because one thing that I looked at, and we never spoke a word about him, but Florian Gast made an excellent showing for himself.
Absolutely. I think this is his first year competing in Hyrox, and I think we're just going to see more of him going forward. But the thing that stands out to me is that the big four performed how we thought they might perform. You know, Alexander Ronkovic, Tim, Michael, Tobias, all four of them, we expected them to be up front, and they performed how we expected them to. I'm a little shocked that Toby wasn't able to get on that podium. But everyone's raising their game, and kudos to Alex for finally getting that championship that's been eluding him for so long. But and then David has to be somewhat disappointed in his performance today, but he'll bounce back, and I'm sure he's still as confident as ever, and look forward to racing him in a couple weeks.
Yeah, you look at this list, and the first thing I think is, man, what happened to Tiago? He came in as the number one seed. He's back here in 10th. And then you look at the time and realize no one really did bad. Sure, they may have qualified on a very fast course, but 1 hour for what, six guys here? One flat for Tiago. It's not the time he wanted, but it's not like he imploded and ran 104, 106, something like that. This is just a pretty quick race. And up front, they were monsters. So, yeah, being the number one seed and finishing 10th, that's disappointing. But I think it does justify how good these Europeans are to have a bunch of people like we talked. You can't all run well on the same day. And if you got spit out the back and only finished, what, a minute, 2 minutes off your PR for a 60-minute race, that's not a shameful performance by any means.
Yeah, and
as a
Tiago,
guy who has to compete against, the top two finishers here in just a few weeks, I mean, I have my work cut out for me. These guys showed something to me today that, they're ready to roll this season. And, Hunter might not be here, and I might think I'm the next man in line, but these guys are here too. And they showed something to me today. And I'm excited to get back to work and get back to training.
we had a quick question in the chat. Somebody asked, and it's just a little technicality. Will we be seeing the women's doubles in the stream? And no, sadly, we won't. We're just doing the single elite wave, and that'll be all for the stream for today. You guys say that it's a rough day for Megiddo. I still look at it as, he came in a 14 seed and finished 8. Yeah, that's a big jump up. I know he wanted more. I know he felt, and a lot of us felt, he could contend for the podium. And I still think that he can, but I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's a huge disappointment. I just think it's, maybe he didn't hit that A target, but he still put in a decent run, and I think he has more in him. I think he can go better. And I think in the US he will be even more of a threat.
Yeah, this isn't disappointed on our side. We're saying Dave's a competitor. Dave expects the world out of himself. He's gone sub 60. European courses are, the rumor is they're fast. So to come over here and not break 60 and not make a podium when his intent was to shock the world, he's going to walk away disappointed. But anytime you beat your seed time, it's a good day, especially at a championship. All you can do is control your own performance. And if you come in 14 and finish 8, that's a good day.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a look at the women's field, and we'll run through the results here. In first place, Lauren Weeks with definitely a PR of 101.12. Second place, Norma Michaela, proving that her first race was no fluke, 102.45. Megan Jacoby managing to get third despite running an extra lap. Just unbelievable. Alundra Greenlee putting in a great performance, 103.42. Miriam Von Rohr, 103.44. So only 2 seconds difference between Alundra and Miriam. That's a great race. Viola Oberlander, 104.58. Tara Jackson, 105.52. And I'm going to do my best here. Jacqueline Lippenmeyer, 105.54. Jane Thompson, 107.19. And Rebecca Mason, 107.37. Again, what jumps out at you here? Any surprises? Anything that catches you that you didn't expect?
I mean, for me, it's Lauren Weeks. The hype was all around Meg Jacoby and Michaela Norman coming into this race. And I have a feeling that kind of eked at her a little bit. She's like, I'm the one you guys should be talking about. And she showed today that she's back on her A game. And when Lauren Weeks is performing at a level like she showed today, man, she is tough to beat. And I want to highlight, too, Rebecca Mason in 10th place. She won. She's an age group world champion from Las Vegas last year, 35 to 39 age group. She's stepped up into the elite category this season, and she's proven that she belongs.
I don't know if we've ever seen that. I don't know if in any version of our sport we've seen someone go from age group to pro level this good in one season. That's outstanding.
Yeah, definitely. For me, again, I think Lauren aside with her amazing performance, Megan running that extra lap and still capturing her position to claim her spot going into Worlds, and still putting in a 103, having run an extra lap, which she probably would end up in second place. I think although she may look at this immediately as a disappointment, I think it just shows an incredible performance on her part to mentally come back and battle back that hard.
And this was dominance by Lauren. From pillar to post, this was dominance. And yet there are 4, maybe 5 women who all leave here feeling some level of confidence. Lauren's like, I'm back and I'm going to get better every single month. All right. I'm only 6 months postpartum. Michaela is saying, I justified how good I was. And I was taking time on Lauren. When she goes back and watches this race and looks at the splits, she ate into her on every single station until wall balls on the second half. So she's going to take confidence on that. Meg Jacoby, it's obvious. She wrote that out for us. I did all this and I added an extra lap. And now I'm pissed off and I'm going to be that much better coming in. Alondra was in the mix and wasn't even supposed to be. She's going to look at it and say, I was underrated and I can do better than I just did. And I was in position for a podium right up until the end. And Miriam's going to look and say, I just matched stride for stride with Meg Jacoby, who's supposed to be the best in the world for the entire second half of that race until my shoe fell off. So I'm going to come in and win worlds too. So you're going to have 5 women who all leave this thinking, I'm set to win worlds this year.
And that's why I think it's going to
And
be
Miriam,
go ahead, Ryan.
Miriam likely would have snuck on that podium had that shoe debacle not happened, because she's 32 seconds off of Meg Jacoby. There's a high probability that she would have gotten on that podium.
Yeah.
Is it become mandatory to do 101 balls unbroken?
On the female side at this point, yeah. If you can't go unbroken at the end, now that we have 3 women who all say they can do it and have done it, and the 3 fastest in the world right now, 3 of the 5 fastest, now it's mandatory. You either have to go unbroken or you've got to come in with that 30-second gap, because you're going to get gobbled up either way.
All right, guys, any final thoughts going out? Bracken?
This is the best, closest, just stack 1st through 5th spread I've ever seen at a championship. We usually have someone break away or 2 people break away. And while Lauren did that for us, we saw compelling matchups start to finish. And this is one of 3 this year. In a few weeks, we have the North American Championship, which is just going to be, let's run it back. Same people coming over, add a few more Americans, and we're going to do it again. And then we get to do the same thing at Worlds. So if stop 1 of 3 gave us this much, now you give people 2 more chances to be in better fitness with better skill. It's going to be a stacked year.
And Ryan, I think it's only appropriate that you get the last word. Going into the U.S. Championships, you're in the field defending your U.S. title. What do you got to say?
Yeah, man. This has been a lot of fun being on this side of the competition, but I'm looking forward to get back on the competition floor. And, one thing that really stood out to me was just how legit, Alex and Tim are. This is going to be no walk in the park for me in a few weeks, but I'm as fit as I've ever been in terms of Hyrox fitness. And they're coming over here to our stomping grounds. And I don't plan on giving up that title. We're going to run it back. And that's the goal, man.
So the long and short of it is, don't bet against Ryan Kent in the U.S. Don't bet against Ryan Kent at Worlds. And hang on, he's coming. I want to thank the OCR Report for putting this on and having us do the commentary. Jason Dupree, who are doing the excellent job behind the computer there and producing. And obviously Bracken and Ryan doing a great job. And everybody for tuning in. Thank you. We appreciate it. And if you want to see us back at the U.S., make sure you let Hyrox know.
Hyrox, thanks for having us on. Having these streams available really, really, really enhances the sport for everyone. So thanks for putting this on.